The Chiefs got the man they wanted, and they got speed to burn. The NFL better be scared tonight on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom. We are here live for your post-round one draft makeup. We're going to get into it all. We're brought to you tonight by LinkedIn. And if you happen to be looking for a candidate that's qualified or, maybe faster than everyone else on the planet that's ever played in the NFL, you can post your job for free as the Chiefs just did. And go to linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL and post that for free. That's that's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. The Chiefs didn't make a whole lot of moves, but they made one that was really important and one selection. We're going to give you all the details, where it fell on my board, how the value looked, what it means for tomorrow, and what was just kind of head-scratching about the whole thing. This is Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner, where you can get all the information you need about all the business side, all the cap, all the quarterback work. Get in there and find that. I'm Ryan Tracy, founder of Rogue Analytics, where you get the draft guide. I know half of you have it already, but if you want to get it, it's at rogueapc.com. You can get everything from my draft board that is free and downloadable right now as PDF on NFL33.com. And you can see, if you want to go back and watch it because you're bored at work on Friday, the 4-hour stream that I just did for the entire first round of the draft, highlighted definitely by the pick that the Chiefs just made. Let's get into it. We're going to get to the day two moves, what's coming up here later in the show, and what this trade was all about. But specifically, you got a guy that very clearly to me, the Chiefs had to have. They wanted to have. And I think that's a little bit surprising, only because I had him a little bit lower, and a lot of folks had said that he had fallen down boards because of the weight and that kind of thing. Clearly, Xavier Worthy of the Kansas City Chiefs was a fit that they felt they had to have, and now I'm kind of excited about it.
Funny how that works out, isn't it? Number one in your athletic matrix when it comes to explosion, which not surprising considering the speed, but
he's matrix number one for the last 3 classes combined.
Yeah, there you go. Not surprising. I'm really looking forward to talking about what we're going to in the second segment, because I'm just still dumbfounded by that trade. But regardless, at this point, they go draft Worthy, and I don't know if you got a chance to see what Andy Reid said after the draft pick, but he said that he is going to also be a guy that could be returning kicks for him. So it's not just a wide receiver. He's going to play wide receiver. It's a great deep threat for Mahomes at this point. But he's also going to be a guy that's going to be returning kicks. And the other thing, and I pointed this out on Twitter, I'm not calling him Tyreek Hill, because I want to be clear on that.
Don't.
No, I'm not. But he does have tracking ability, which was one of the things that made Tyreek Hill such a valuable weapon to the Chiefs and to Patrick Mahomes. And that is such a big thing when you start talking about speed and having that speed to be able to beat defenders downfield. Go back and watch what happened with MVS so many different times. And he could not track the ball to save his life. And I'm sorry, that's just reality. Worthy has that ability. That is going to be huge on deep balls.
It absolutely is. And if you go back, one of the reasons that I had him as a second-round pick, which again, at 32 certainly, and even at 27 or 28, it's worth it.
Still can't believe it.
We'll get there. But even if you go back, I had him at that grade because he didn't perform as well last season as he did the season before. The season before, he was even more elite at getting behind defenses, understanding where to put himself to make the most for his quarterback. He still, even then, it was the number in his games that he tracks the ball over his head better than anybody else in this class. Better than even Roma Dunze, who was my number one wide receiver in this class, and personally a guy that I wanted to see the reverse happen and him end up in Kansas City, but that's okay. This is clearly part of a bigger plan. And I think the acquisition of Hollywood Brown and now the acquisition of Xavier Worthy, I'm not kidding. Teams should be shaking in their boots because you can't cover both of them unless you go to a cover 4 concept deep all the way and you keep everything in front of you. If you're going to do that, you know who just got really, really, really happy? His name's Travis Kelce.
Yeah. Yeah. And to some extent, Rashee Rice too. Look at where Rashee Rice made a lot of his yards last year. It was intermediate routes. It wasn't He only had, I think, 1 or 2 deep routes the entire season. He was mainly doing short and intermediate, and he was getting a ton of yak. That's going to help him out too when he's able to play. That's a whole other discussion as to when he's going to be available. Roger Goodell did talk about it leading up to the draft, saying that they're going to let the legal process play out. So we'll see what kind of suspension he gets. But talking about Worthy, you add him, you add Brown, you add Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. That's going to be quite a formidable passing offense. Lot to be excited about in Kansas City, and they still have guys from last year in Sky Moore. They still have Kadarius Toney. They still have Justin Watson. There's still some guys there. I really like this pick. I think it was a good pick. I do think that some people are going to look at it and say that they reached, and I kind of get it to an extent, but pairing this speed with this quarterback, it's really hard for me to call it a reach. I know a lot of people had a second round talent on him. You did too, but you're not going to get a first round talent at 28. You're just not.
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly, you nailed it. I had 21 first round grades. He was not one of them, but he was in that cluster at the top of the second for me. And at that point, when all your first round grades are exhausted, you go back to what's next. When I saw them get on the clock, I thought there was a possibility that they were more concerned about the shrinking group of tackles that are in the third tier, because the first and second tiers are all gone.
Yep.
So it's Kingsley Suamataia and it's Roger Rosengarten for me, followed by a good bit, almost half a round later, by Blake Fisher, Patrick Paul, and Kieran Amegaje. And clearly, and I theorized this a couple days ago here on the show, about if you get to that point where now you're into the second, third, fourth tier where you don't feel that it's worth even 32 at the position that you feel is the priority, do you go to what the value is? And that, I feel, is what they did here. How they did it was the biggest surprise to me. But do you think they got enough value with the pick?
I do. I think that when you look at this, you look at the offensive tackle class, and once you got to a point where you had some of those tackles going off, I mean, you had 3 tackles go in the top 12. You had 3 wide receivers go in the top 12. You had 6 QBs go in the top 12. Just absolutely asinine. And I think you had 4 tackles go in the top 14, if I'm correct. I think New Orleans took one as well. So you're sitting there, it's 4 of your offensive tackles gone that early. Your boy went to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 20.
Yeah.
Mims went to Cincinnati at 18. So at that point, you're sitting at 6 tackles gone at 20.
Yeah.
Good luck getting a tackle at that point. I mean, yeah, you could have gotten Guyton, which you actually took in the Locked On sheet or in the Locked On NFL mock draft. But I think this is a good pick. I like it. I think that this gives Kansas City speed that they haven't had for a while. I think it gives them a deep threat. And there's a lot to be said about having that type of game-breaking speed and seeing what his vision could be with the new kickoff rules.
Yeah. The kickoff in particular with that flattened line, Luis Brees-Zammit. Yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about the kickoffs and special teams and trying to get that bigger into the game. I think there's a lot to be gleaned from that. But we also have to talk about just how this thing got done, and that's maybe the bigger story here. I mean, I hate to take away from the draft pick, but how they got this done with the Buffalo Bills is supremely paramount to
the
getting
Buffalo
it done
Bills
in general. Yes. Yeah, we said that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to get to that on the backside of this coming up on the Locked On Podcast Network.
When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively looking for another job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode of your favorite Locked On podcast is brought to you by the best meal kit service in the game, Home Chef. No more having to answer the dreaded question, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? Thanks to Home Chef and their chef-designed recipes that are delivered directly to my door, all pre-packaged, pre-portioned. They even peel the garlic cloves for you. And each recipe, one of my favorites, Black and Mahi, comes with a full page of easy-to-read instructions that include customization options and pictures to guide you along the way through the step-by-step process, so you don't have to ask, is that what chard looks like? I cannot recommend Home Chef enough, especially right now, because for a limited time, Home Chef is giving Locked On listeners 18 free meals, free dessert for life, and of course, free shipping on your first box if you head to homechef.com/lockedon today. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. Yes, you heard that right. Homechef.com/lockedon. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
I like free dessert myself, and the icing on the cake might be the fact that you not only got Xavier Worthy with this draft pick, but you got to get back a little bit more on the Buffalo Bills, which is just historically crazy to me. Make sure you check out the Locked On Sports Today feeds 24/7. They're going to run down everything that we've all done. We appreciate you hanging with us. We are live, so please, if you are in the chat with all 600 or 400 of you, please be kind to each other and keep it clean here. I don't want to have to kick anybody out, so keep that on the straight and narrow. But Chris, this is probably the bigger surprise, is it not? It's not that it's the speedster, the elite athlete that we've seen the Chiefs covet in the past. It's the fact that you got Brandon Beane to trade with you again at a position that they needed.
That's the biggest thing for me. It's that they needed him. Or they needed a wide receiver. They needed to add players. And I will say this. You start looking at what the Chiefs gave up to go up and get Worthy, and it seems like it may be a lot, because you're basically giving up a third-round pick, but you're getting back a fourth-round pick. So it's not the same value. When you start looking at some of the draft trade comparison charts, basically they gave up something close to like a sixth-round pick to move up 4 spots in the first round. I think that's pretty good value for Kansas City, and it looked like it was pretty much even when you look at it from that perspective. If you're looking at it from the perspective of if you felt like Worthy was if Worthy was actually worth the 28th overall pick, that's a different perspective. I think we've argued that enough, and I think that this is going to be a fun pick to see what Kansas City's able to do with it. But getting Brandon Beane to trade with you again after the Patrick Mahomes trade a couple of years ago, and then don't forget Kansas City leapfrogging to go get Trent McDuffie right in front of the Bills, and you get Beane to give you your number one, or I guess maybe not a number one or a receiver, but a wide receiver that is going to be a starter for you for the next several years, that's going to give Buffalo fits. It's just shocking to me that Buffalo was willing to do that.
Somebody please check on Joe Marino right now. I want to make sure that he's okay. Make a call if you need to. All right. 2 things stand out to me. I disagree. I am not happy with the compensation because I don't like moving out of the top 100. So I understand you had to give something up, but I do believe that this was the plan for the Bills all along. I think they're in wholesale mode. The departure of the wide receivers, I thought that would be the position they take if they took, but they didn't. And clearly another trade out after they get 32 tells me that this is what Brandon Beane is doing. I'm getting out of these picks. I have to get down into day 2 where the bulk of the quality picks are. I have 80 selections on my board in the 64 picks that are in the second and third round. So there's an over volume there. So for him, he needs to compress his draft and get into that range. And so he's just driving as hard a bargain as he can. But in the end, he allows his I won't call him a nemesis, but the guy who's gotten the better of him in moves before to do it yet again.
Yeah, and then they trade back, and then the Bills go and trade 32 to get to 33, and they get another pick. And it wasn't a great value, but at the same time, they moved back 1 pick, and actually they're sitting in the catbird seat because 33 is an extremely valuable pick. I would think that is not a pick that you'd be wanting to give up if you are the Carolina Panthers, but obviously the Panthers wanted to go get another wide receiver. Don't think that makes a ton of sense to me. I think that was a bad move, but regardless, you're sitting here looking at Buffalo having this situation where they are now trying to make up for all the players that they've lost. and they have to be able to have all those picks in the second and third round. And I get not liking getting out of the top 100, but I guess the other way I look at it is that you can trade both 131 and 133 to move up back into the top 100.
And we're going to talk about that in the next segment. So
yeah,
don't give it away yet.
No, I'm just saying you can use the pick you got to go back up into the third round if you need to, or you can use the pick you got to move up in the second round, which is what we're going to have to talk about here in just a moment. But lots of different things you could do. I still am shocked that it was Buffalo. Like I'm sitting there watching the Bills pick, just expecting that they're going to take one of the receivers that the Chiefs wanted. The only other place that I would have really wanted Kansas City to go is trying to get up and get Brian Thomas Jr. When he started falling past 22, 23, I was thinking, okay, maybe they trade up and go get him.
Yeah.
I'm still happy with Worthy, but that was what I was looking at. And I knew once the Jacksonville Jaguars were back on the clock, there was no way that he was getting past them at that point.
Yeah, I agree. And, kudos to them as well. We forget a lot of times that the NFL is about relationships. And clearly from the outside in, we're talking, hey, old Veach got one on Brandon Beane again, right? But in the reality, it's probably an open conversation. Listen, I need to get this guy. I know I need to come up, and Beane's probably of the opinion, hey, I'm looking to move out. I don't really care who you're going to get, but you're going to give me value. And so it turns into that, like, you can be frank enough. I doubt they exchanged the actual names of the players, because I am sure that the Bills had a player at the position on their board ready to go if the deal didn't happen.
Yep.
But kudos to them for having the professionalism and probably the personal relationship to get that done, especially when it does seem from our perspective that Veach has been on the winning side of most of these moves.
Well, and then you sit there and you look at the fact that the Bills are moving back out of the first round completely, so they're not going to have that chance to have a fifth-year option on the player in a couple of years once they get there. Obviously, that's way down the road, but you're looking at what they're going to have to do on that side with their team after all the things that they lost this offseason. Lots of different things that they're going to need to do. They need all the picks that they can get. So it does make sense from that perspective. From Kansas City's perspective, it's a little different because you're in a situation where you literally brought back pretty much your entire defense other than Jarius Sneed. You let Willie Gay go, but I still feel like that's kind of almost a push considering you already had, Tranquil there. So, I mean, it is what it is. And so now you're sitting there you need left tackle. And obviously we've already talked about it. So, what would we say? 6 that went in the top 20. That's
I cried at 20. I got to tell you.
And Guyton went at what, 29? And I mean, so he went right after 28, and it's really hard. There's lots to talk about when we get to day 2. I do want to say this really quick, and I know we're going to talk about day 2 here in a moment, but the funniest pick of the draft for me, other than Bo Nix, because that was funny at 12, but Penix at 8. I just don't understand it. I never will understand it. I know we're talking Chiefs, but I love talking about the draft, and that one just flabbergasted me.
I was very happy with both of them. I think those two guys were criminally underrated this whole time. My top 6 quarterbacks went off exactly as I pegged, and I had Penix number 4 right where he went. So I thought it was a successful day out.
Fair enough, but the team that he went to, that was the thing that it wasn't necessarily that he went. It was more the team that he went to.
No, I understand that. I think they're using the Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes model myself. But we can cover that here on our wrap show for tomorrow as we look at the bigger stories in the draft overall, as well as all the Chiefs picks. Coming up next, what do they need to do tomorrow? That's here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, between you and me, you guys know I'm a competitive person. I'm still upset about giving up 95 to get Worthy, but that's okay. If you're as competitive as I am, you probably want to get in on the action. And if you're a fan, you need to go get Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded 150 million times. And it's a great twist on the Monopoly game, where you can play not one, but on hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations and build up huge cities, bringing yourself that big money. And the best part is you can mess with your friends. You can play with your friends. You can do whatever you want. I can charge my pals iconic properties and get that classic Monopoly feel and then charge them all the way up. I can go heist their vaults and take those riches for myself. And the leaderboards will show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is until it's me. So, but if you want to get in on that action, you are competitive, get there. You could also team up with your friends and play all around the world in tournaments for huge awards. You can get in that game with your pals or solo right now. Go download Monopoly Go. It's free on the App Store and on Google Play. Now, don't forget, we will have a wrap-up show following day 2 tomorrow, as well as day 3, and we will have you covered for all those picks. You can still get my draft board for free on NFL33.com, and you can get the draft guide at rogueapc.com as well. I'll have some stats about where the...
I just have to give you that one.
Pull Jason. I mean, see, now, Justin Mean is a longtime fan. Justin, we appreciate you. If you can make Jason Kelce find his Super Bowl ring, maybe he would play fullback for you, but I don't know if that's in the cards.
I just had to, you had to see that one.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I would love to have us a fullback. Jason, come on. You don't even got to practice, bro. It's in. Let's get this. Now, they could do that tomorrow, but what else do they have to do tomorrow? What do you expect them to do? I have a few theories myself, but where are you at?
I think that they have to try to get a left tackle, and I don't know how they're going to do it. I think they have to try to move up. The problem is there's only just a couple that are left that you feel like could probably be second-round picks, and then you're sitting there in the third round with Patrick Paul. I don't think you want to take him at 64, and I don't know that you want to. I mean, if you trade back, how far can you trade back and still feel like you could get him? Is he going to be able to step in and be a day one starter? That's the big question. Lots of different questions
right now. I think there's one prospect left that could even give Wanye Morris a run for his money, and that's Kingsley Suamataia.
Yeah,
I really like Roger Rosengarten as well, and we have to consider this too. It doesn't have to be a left tackle. The Chiefs have been willing in the past to move Jawan Taylor over, and I do think that that's probably still on the table.
I hate it though. I would hate that. Can he do it? Yeah, probably. Is he going to be better at left tackle than he is at right tackle? Probably not. So you're downgrading basically probably 2 positions in year 1.
Fair.
That's a tough sell to me.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
To me, at this point, if you can't go get a guy like Kingsley, then maybe what you do is you say, okay, we're going to bring back Donovan Smith. And who knows what we're going to do at the end of round 2. We'll have to figure that out. Lots of different ways they can go with that. If you can't get Kingsley, you bring back Donovan Smith. You have an open competition between Smith and Wanye Morris, and you just figure that you're going to be giving up whatever you can to trying to go to get a left tackle next year. I don't really know what you can do at this point. This was the draft to try to get a tackle, and I don't blame Kansas City for not getting it done because there were a lot of players that went off the board. 6 tackles in the top 20. I mean, that's really hard.
Yeah. And clearly teams were trying to move up. We heard even talk of at 5, possibly trying to move Justin Herbert out of Los Angeles, of all things. I mean, that's how much trade talk was going on. So I agree with you. I'm sure it's not for a lack of attempts.
Did you almost cry when Alt went to the Chargers?
I mean, honestly, if you were going to hurt me any other way, I mean, I don't have that connection that I had to have him because of the legacy aspect. I just don't want to see the Chargers get good. So let's just keep it that way. Because instantly, because of that one pick, they will be, by every talking head in America who doesn't know Jack, they will now be the odds-on favorite to win the AFC West.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, if he's going to be able to run the ball for 3,000 yards, because right now Quentin Johnston is their best receiver. So good luck with that.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I will say this. There's a couple of things that they need to do. I agree they need to get some O-line help. At this point, I'm not sure that it's worth trading all the way up to get a particular player. I do have Kingsley Suamataia as my favorite, my best graded tackle left on the board right now.
Which means he's likely gone in the next 10 picks would be my guess.
I would agree. And I do have Rosengart over Paul, but he's still there. And then they could get some more developmental guys. I also think, despite the fact that both Graham Barton and Jordan Morgan went in the first round, I thought there'd be a chance for one of them to be around as well. In the end, you have to have depth at the interior as well. So I won't put that past them. I do think there's some good interior players that are still out there. Christian Haynes comes to mind first on the top of my board. They could go to the defensive side as well tomorrow. Johnny Newton and Cooper DeJean are my last 2 first-round grades that did not go in the first round. So they're still available. And I do think that we've heard a lot of connection. I do think it is a viable possibility that they're looking to try to get in position to get Marshawn Nealon. So I think right now it looks like it's one thing. As we put the whole draft together, I think it will become a clearer picture of getting multiple things done. And knowing that you always kind of had Donovan Smith in your back pocket, I expect that was the fallback position all along.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how the first part of the second round goes tomorrow, because at this point you've had a run on wide receiver to an extent. Are you going to continue to have one early tomorrow? I doubt it. I think that you're probably going to see some other positions go because you still have some guys that are higher round prospects. But if another wide receiver drops to that range at 64, I don't think Kansas City could possibly be done. I think you can't take that position off the board just because you got one in the first round. If everybody else on your draft board is gone that's anywhere close, you take the wide receiver. I mean, that's just the reality of it. There's a couple of positions you don't really touch in the second round. Obviously, running back, QB, those types of things you're not going to touch in the second round. Probably I would add linebacker to that. Don't think I'd probably look at a safety in the second round. Just because of the depth you already have at those positions. But other than that, I think you could probably say that they could go anywhere.
I think that's probably true. I will say
tight end, interior line, offensive tackle, defensive line, defensive end, corner. I mean, all of those positions I think are open.
I will say this. I think overall, I think they have to reduce the number of picks. I think they need to use the picks they have to trade up in at least one, if not several positions, because it is very clear to me that in what's atypical in moving up at all for Brett Veach, even more so now, I don't think they see the value at the bottom in the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. Clearly 6 and 7 from what we got from his press conference. So I think that they need to continue to push to get the prospects they want, more trade ups, probably a smaller draft class overall.
Well, and the big question I have is, are they going to use one of the thirds next year to trade up and maybe move up in the second round to go get somebody that they like?
Possibly. I would have hoped that they would have used that in the first round rather than the second, because I don't think you get as much value.
And I don't disagree with you, but it depends on what position they're able to get. If Sumatai is still sitting there at 56, 55?
Yeah.
I think you make that move. If you can get up there for that third round pick, I think you make that move, and I think you walk away with your first 2 positions taken care of that you needed, and I think you're in a great shape for the rest of the draft.
I just want to Minotaur and Justin Mead here. Legion of Zoom 2.0. I think so. And he wanted to know, how many tickets do we get next year? Yeah, well, let's not go down the ticket road so much right now. But, speed's going to be on display. What do they get tomorrow? We're going to be with you. We're going to run it down for you when the second day is over. Plenty of draft picks on the go right now. It's an encouraging start, and at least they're being aggressive and getting to prospects that they feel can help them in this three-peat. We have to keep in mind the three-peat is the thing. All out, go get it. Day 2 of the draft is going to be exciting. We hope that you guys will join us tomorrow night when we do this again. Thank you for being with us on a late evening on the first round of the NFL Draft 2024. And we will talk to you tomorrow.